I'm about to show you something that sounds impossible. 2 cucumber plants, same seed packet, planted the same day, in the same soil, watered by the same hose. By the middle of July, one of them has given you a sad little handful of cucumbers and quit, the leaves going pale, the vine slowing down, done for the season. And the other one is still climbing, still flowering, still handing you cucumbers by the armload well into September. Same plant, same start. One of them produced twice what the other did, maybe more. The difference isn't the seed, it isn't a special fertilizer, it isn't some secret variety you can't buy at the same rack as everybody else. The difference is 2 things that almost nobody does anymore. 2 things your great-grandmother did without even thinking about it. Back when a garden wasn't a hobby, it was how the family ate through the winter. And once you understand why they work, you're going to be a little angry that nobody ever told you. Because this is the reason your cucumber plants die in the heat of summer, while somebody else's are still burying them in cucumbers when the mornings go cool. Well, this isn't a trick. This isn't clickbait. This is just how the plant actually works and how we forgot to work with it. But before I show you the method, I have to explain one thing. Because if you skip this part, none of the rest will make sense. And you'll go right back to doing what everybody does and wondering why your plants give up on you every single year, right when the season should be getting good. Let me tell you the single most important fact about a cucumber plant. A cucumber plant does not exist to feed you. I know that's a hard thing to hear when you're the one out there doing the watering every evening, but the plant has exactly one job as far as nature is concerned, and that job is to make seeds. That's it. Every flower, every cucumber, every inch of that climbing vine is in service of one goal: produce a mature fruit full of ripe seeds so the next generation can grow. The green cucumber you slice into your salad is just the seed package on its way to getting ripe. You are eating the plant's children before they grow up. That's the whole business of a cucumber. Now here's where it gets interesting, and here's the part that changes everything about how you'll grow them from this day forward. When you let a cucumber stay on the vine too long, when it gets big and fat and turns from deep green to pale yellow, that plant has done its job. It has made a mature fruit with ripe seeds inside it, and the moment that happens, the plant gets a signal. Mission accomplished. And it does exactly what any living thing does when its life's work is finished. It slows down, it stops throwing out new flowers, it stops setting new fruit. Because why would it keep spending precious energy making more cucumbers when it has already succeeded at the one thing it was put on this earth to do? One yellow, overripe cucumber, forgotten down in the leaves, tells the entire plant to shut the whole factory down. That is why your cucumbers quit in July. Not the heat, not bad luck, not a curse on your garden. Somewhere on that vine, hidden underneath the leaves where you couldn't see it, one cucumber grew too big, and the plant read that as the end of the season and started packing up. And here's how fast it happens, because this is the part that catches everybody. In the peak of summer heat, a cucumber can go from the perfect eating size to a fat yellow monster in 2 or 3 days. You look on Monday and there's nothing ready. You get busy, you don't look again until Thursday, and now there's a cucumber the size of your forearm hiding in there, already turning, already sending that shutdown signal through the vine. That's all it takes. That's how a plant that was thriving on Monday is stalling out by the weekend. So now you know the enemy. It isn't a bug. It isn't a disease. It's a single missed cucumber. And that brings us to the 2 things that fix it: the trellis and the rule. Together, they are the whole secret. And they used to teach this to every child who grew up with dirt under their fingernails. Let's start with the ground, because the ground is quietly killing your harvest. And here's exactly how. When you let a cucumber plant sprawl across the dirt the way most folks do, the way the back of the seed packet even tells you that you can, 3 bad things happen at the same time. First, the cucumbers that form underneath all those leaves are sitting right on the damp soil, and wherever fruit touches wet ground for very long, it rots. You lose them before they're ever ready. Second, the leaves lying flat on the ground stay wet after every rain and every morning dew and wet. Still, shaded leaves are exactly where powdery mildew begins, that white dust that spreads across a plant and chokes it to death by the end of summer. And third, and this is the one that costs you the most cucumbers of all, you cannot see half of your crop. The cucumbers are hidden under a jungle of leaves, tucked into the shadows, and you walk right past them day after day. And those hidden cucumbers, the ones you never find in time, keep right on growing. They get big, they turn yellow, they go to seed, and they send that shut-it-all-down signal through the whole plant while you're standing there wondering why you haven't seen a new flower in 2 weeks. A sprawling cucumber plant is a plant that is hiding its own cucumbers from you until it is too late to do anything about it. Now here is the fix, and it costs almost nothing at all. You grow them up, not out. You grow them vertical. You give them something to climb, a trellis. And I don't mean anything you have to buy from a catalog or build with power tools. The simplest version is 2 sturdy stakes, one at each end of your row, with a wire or strong string run between their tops, and lengths of twine dropped straight down to each plant. The old growers called it a string trellis, and it's what they still use in greenhouses today. The cucumber grabs the string and climbs. My own favorite is a cattle panel, one of those 16-foot steel grid panels from the farm store, bent into an arch between two beds and staked down. The vines climb up and over, and the cucumbers hang straight down underneath where you walk through and pick them like fruit off a ceiling. $20 lasts 20 years. And the laziest, cheapest version of all, lean an old section of wire fencing, a wooden pallet, or a discarded screen door against a sunny wall, stake the bottom so it can't slide, and let the plant climb that. Cucumbers are natural climbers. They come equipped with little curling tendrils that reach out and grab anything you put near them. All you have to do is give them something to grab and guide the young vine onto it a few times in the first couple of weeks until it takes hold on its own. $5 of twine and half an hour of your Saturday. That's the entire cost of the first half of this secret. And look at everything that changes the moment that plant goes vertical. Every leaf is now up in the open air and sunlight, drying fast after rain and dew, and powdery mildew loses the damp. Still home, it needs to get started. The fruit hangs down in clean air instead of rotting on the soil, and because it's hanging free instead of curling around clods of dirt, it grows long and straight instead of bent into a C shape. Air moves through the whole plant. Bees can reach every single flower. And this is the big one. This is the whole point. Every cucumber is now hanging right there in front of your eyes, at eye level, where you physically cannot miss it. Nothing hides. Nothing gets forgotten in the shadows. Nothing gets the chance to turn yellow and shut your plant down behind your back. That's the trellis. That's the first half. Now the rule, and the rule is where the doubling really lives. The rule is this: pick early, pick often, and never, not once, let a cucumber grow big. I want you walking to that trellis every single day during the season, or every other day at the very most, and every cucumber that has reached a good eating size, you pick it, even if you don't need it that day. Even if you've already got a bowl full sitting on the counter. You pick it and you hand it over the fence to a neighbor before you ever let it sit on that vine and grow fat. Because remember, what a big cucumber tells the plant? It says, we're finished, we won. And a young cucumber, snipped off while it's still small and tender, tells the plant the exact opposite. It tells the plant we have not succeeded yet. We have to keep trying. Make more flowers, set more fruit, do it all again. You are, in a very real sense, gently tricking the plant. You are never once letting it finish the job. It's so desperate to finish. And a cucumber plant that is never allowed to finish its job just keeps producing and producing and producing for weeks longer than a plant that was allowed to ripen one fat cucumber and call the season a success. Here's a quick guide on size. For a slicing cucumber, the regular kind for salads, pick it at about 6 to 8 inches and err on the smaller side. A slightly small cucumber is crisp and sweet. An oversized one is full of tough seeds and bitterness. For the little pickling cucumbers, pick them tiny, at 2 to 4 inches, which is exactly when they're best for the jar anyway. Use scissors or garden snips to cut the stem. Don't yank it off by hand, because yanking tears the vine and sets the plant back. And pick in the cool of the morning if you can, both because the cucumbers are crispest then and because the low, slanting morning light makes the hidden ones easy to spot. And if you're out there one morning and you find one you missed, the big fat yellow one lurking in the vine, you pull it off immediately and throw it straight in the compost. Do not leave it hanging there thinking you'll deal with it later. That one cucumber is holding your entire plant hostage. The very second you remove it, you release the plant to start flowering all over again. I've watched a stalled out, given up cucumber plant come roaring back to life within a week. New flowers, new fruit, the whole thing born again, just from pulling off the one yellow cucumber that was strangling its production. That's the difference between a plant that quits and a plant that keeps going. The trellis lets you see every last one of them. The rule makes sure not a single one ever gets to stop the plant. That combination, growing up instead of out and picking young instead of late, that is what doubles your harvest. Not a bottle, not a powder, not a miracle. Just those two forgotten habits working together. Now let me talk about the feeding. The 1 cup, because a plant that's producing double needs to eat like it's producing double, and this is where a lot of good gardeners leave cucumbers on the table without ever realizing it. Here's the honest truth. A heavily fruiting cucumber plant is a genuinely hungry plant. All that flowering and all that fruit takes real fuel to produce. So once your plant starts setting cucumbers, give each one about a cup of a good balanced liquid feed once a week, poured right at the base, a proper balanced garden fertilizer mixed to the strength on the label, or an old-fashioned compost tea or worm casting tea if you'd rather keep it natural and nearly free from the compost pile you've already got going. Pour it in at the roots in the cool of the morning and keep it off the leaves. This is what keeps the engine running strong, while the trellis and the harvest rule keep the engine from ever shutting off. But let me be plain about that, because I will not mislead you the way the bottle sellers do. The feed does not double your harvest on its own. No single cup of anything on this earth doubles a cucumber harvest by itself, no matter what the label on the fancy bottle promises you. The feed fuels the production. The trellis and the relentless picking are what actually create it. Do all three of these things together, up off the ground, picked young and often, fed once a week, and that is when you get the plant that simply refuses to quit on you. 2 more old-timer touches while we're at it. First, water deeply and consistently at the base and lay down a couple inches of mulch. Straw, grass clippings, shredded leaves, right under the trellis. Cucumbers are mostly water, and a plant that dries out and then gets flooded and then dries out again gives you bitter, misshapen fruit. Steady moisture gives you sweet, straight cucumbers, and the mulch holds that moisture in. Second, plant a second short row of cucumbers 3 or 4 weeks after your first one. That way, just as your first plants start to tire out late in the season, your second wave is hitting its stride, and you carry fresh cucumbers clear into the fall while everybody else has been done for a month. Now let me be honest with you about the limits, because I'd rather have your trust than your disappointment. This doesn't turn a poor variety into a good one. If you want big numbers, plant a productive type of bread to keep producing all season, not one bread for a single showy county fair fruit. And this doesn't work without pollination, which trips up more people than anything else. So listen close. A cucumber plant makes 2 different kinds of flowers, separate male flowers and female flowers. And the very first flush of flowers your plant throws out is usually all male with no baby cucumber behind them, which sends new gardeners into a panic, thinking the plant is broken. It isn't. The female flowers, the ones with a tiny miniature cucumber already formed right behind the bloom, come along a little later, and those are the ones that need a bee to carry pollen to become a full cucumber. So you need pollinators in your garden. If you're short on bees, you can do it yourself in the morning with a small, soft brush. And finally, double isn't a number carved in stone. Depending on your variety, your season, and your weather, you might get a little less, you might get a great deal more. But what I can promise you flat out is this. A trellised plant that you pick young and pick often will outproduce a sprawling plant you pick late, every single time. And it usually isn't even close. Now, you might be wondering, if this is so simple and so cheap and so effective, why doesn't everybody already know it? Why does every seed packet still tell you to let them sprawl across the ground? Why do the garden centers walk you straight past a wall of miracle bloom boosters in shiny bottles, instead of just telling you to string up a trellis and pick your cucumbers young? And the answer, it always is, there is no money in it. You cannot sell a man a bag of anything when the real secret is a length of twine he already owns, and the habit of walking out to his garden every morning with a pair of scissors. The trellis doesn't have a marketing department. Pick your cucumbers before they get big. It doesn't come in a bottle with a brand name and a price tag. The people who grew food to actually survive. The victory gardeners during the wars, the old market growers, the farm families feeding themselves off a small patch of ground. Every one of them grew their cucumbers straight up and harvested them relentlessly. Because when your yield per square foot is the difference between eating and going hungry, you learn very fast what actually works. And then, somewhere along the way, when growing food turned from a necessity into a weekend hobby, we quietly stopped teaching it. We got sold sprawl and bottles instead of trellises and discipline. The knowledge didn't die because it stopped working. It died because nobody could make $1 off it. So here's exactly what I want you to do this week. First, get your cucumbers up off the ground, string up a trellis, cattle panel arch, stakes and twine, a leaning old fence, whatever you've got, and gently guide those young vines onto it. Second, starting today, walk out to that plant every day or every other day and pick every cucumber that's big enough to eat, and never once let a single one grow fat and yellow on you. If you find one you missed, pull it off that very second. Third, once the fruit starts setting, feed each plant a cup of a good balanced feed or homemade compost tea once a week, right at the base. And if you want to run it all the way into fall, drop a second short row of seeds in the ground 3 or 4 weeks behind the first. Do those things together and then go take a look at your garden in the middle of August, when your neighbor's cucumber plants have long since given up and gone brown, and yours are still climbing, still flowering, still handing you cucumbers by the basketful. Tell me down in the comments where you garden and how your cucumbers have treated you in years past. Did they quit on you in July like everybody else's always seem to? I read every single one. And if you string up a trellis this weekend, you come right back here and tell me how it went, because I genuinely want to hear it. Next time, I'm going to show you the forgotten trick the old-timers used to get their tomato plants to keep on ripening long after everybody else's had already stopped for the year. It's one single cut, made in one specific spot, at exactly the right moment, and almost nobody alive still does it. Until then, grow up instead of out, pick them young, and remember that the people who fed this whole country with their own 2 hands knew things we're only just now starting to remember.